heal as a team, we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, October 14th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole, and I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Today, I'm going to have a roundtable of sorts. For the full 2 hours, I have my good buddy Steve Stars hanging out with me. Steve, say hello.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Popeye. We always have a good show, I hope.
It's always a pleasure when you come on, my friend. And in the second hour, hopefully, if I can get everything set up correctly, we'll have another guest dropping in, and the three of us are going to hang out, and we're going to talk about Iran and stuff. And he's a truther on YouTube, very prominent one. He's been around for years, so hopefully John will be able to get in contact with us, and we'll have him on in the second hour. But right now, I want to hop right into it because I'm sure the FBI is recording this. Now, when I say that, for somebody to say, well, you're just being paranoid, Popeye. No, not anymore. You could have maybe said that yesterday, but not today. Well, why do I say that, Steve? Because a talk radio, WMAL talk radio in Washington, D.C., well, I guess I don't know if he's a host or whatever, but a guy named Mark Weaver wrote an article about the fact that the FBI has awarded a $524,927 contract to a Virginia company to record all the internet broadcast talk radio it can find. So, big F-U to the ABC alphabet organizations that are listening right now. Stasi spies.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of surprising that they only spent that little amount of money when they have Echelon and all these other big operations. But I guess they got to, have some sort of excuse for pretending like they're paying attention.
They have to have something above board.
Yeah.
They can't. You know, it's funny. I was listening. I like the show called NCIS. I know it's all crap, and I like to watch it. And I like the show, but I like to pick it apart and point out all the stuff that they put in there. And during the show, they were talking about, like terrorists or whatever, because they're to Navy Criminal Investigative Services, and they mentioned echelon, and I about fell out of my chair because they were talking about it like it was nothing. They mentioned echelon like you and I would talk about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, we use it all the time, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, man, they're letting people know now, and they have to. So the easiest way for them to do it is they put it out through mass media and stuff like that. They mentioned things like that in the show. The other thing that pissed me off, and I pointed this out to my wife, was in the show, one of the characters, her father works for Mossad, and although they do show Mossad in a bad light, there's always a Palestinian terror group ready to do something, and they always mention the characters in the show always mention key things like Zionism and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, the Palestinian terrorists are anti-Zionists and stuff like that. So that way they demonize anybody that talks bad about Zionism. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job, because I know people that are like, well, if you're against Zionism, that means you hate Jews and you're an anti-Semite. And I'm like, do you even know what you're talking about? Do you know that if you go over to Israel, there's rabbis that march against Zionism? I guess they're anti-Semitic, right? Does that make any sense? I mean, that's like saying if you don't agree with Obama, you're a racist, right, Steve?
Right, exactly. There are photographs of rabbis embracing Ahmadinejad. And, he's talked to their groups. They've talked about some of the common agendas and goals they have. I mean, it's not like everybody in Israel agrees with this point of view, but we're led to believe that. They keep trying to tell us what we think. You know what I mean, Popeye? It's not a matter of reporting what we think. It's telling us what we think, And that's the way they operate. That's the kind of propaganda. Most people don't suspect that, if they tell you that a poll that they've taken tells you this, nobody suspects that the poll isn't really legitimate. It's just another one of those attempts to tell you what you think, and that's what they do. They tell you what you think, not what they think, but what you think. You see, and it's a lot of people get mixed up on all that kind of stuff. But you're absolutely right. That's what happens over there. And they're, of course, now with the whole thing going on with the Holder in trouble with Fast and Furious, of course, oddly enough, this story is now coming out, Popeye, and it looks like aggressive saber rattling is on the verge of waxing strong again.
Wagging the dog.
Yeah.
Wagging the dog big time. I mean, when you have people like Schaefer, who's he still believes in bombing certain people, although Schaefer has come out and he admits certain things, but you got him when you got him coming out and saying, look, this is a contrived thing, this is all made up, and he's got insiders saying that from the FBI saying that it's BS, that there's no evidence, that this like I covered for Bob Tuskin yesterday on his show, and I played this clip of him on Napolitano's show.
Right.
And he's sitting there saying, his FBI, an insider that he knows, an investigator with like really high clearance, can't even find anything. So that shows him that this stuff doesn't exist, because that's odd. There should be at least something, traces of something, and there's not even traces of anything. So they think it's just horse crap.
Yep. And we're getting this from 2 or 3 other sources as well. Steve Pashinik has pointed out, from his sources, there wasn't anything. Of course, the investigation's been ongoing for quite some time, and I guess the guy was arrested back in September. And so it's odd that it all pops up right now, but, you did a very good job covering that by Judge Napolitano and Schaefer. And, as long as the FBI is listening, Popeye, we should invite them, because there are a few good FBI agents left. I really believe there are. It's kind of like the X-Files, where there's wars and information control and gatekeeping inside the agency, but there are people who are trying to do their job and get us the information that we actually need. So welcome aboard, FBI, is all I can say. We'd be glad to hear from you anytime. If you have any of your sources that want to help us along a little bit and do their constitutional duty to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution, yeah, we're here. We're ready for you. What do you think of that? I think I'll buy you a Coke. or maybe a diet Sprite or whatever they drink. Who knows? But I mean, it's like, they're out there, and we know from these stories that there really isn't any essence of a story behind the entire Mexican-Iranian terrorist plot that anybody can find. And this was coming from Ray McGovern. It was coming from Steve Pashinik and also Andrew Schaefer. And there are other people that are saying this same thing too.
Yeah, when you have multiple sources telling you, hoisting the BS flag, as we used to say when I was in the military, when you hoist the bullcrap ensign, there's that mean, and you got multiple people calling, foul. Come on. We're going to break, guys. Steve and I will be right back. Stay tuned. And don't believe any of this crap.
9/11 was an inside job. They lie, they scam, they cheat, and steal. They plot, they fund, they act, it's real.
Welcome back, guys. Steve, I'm going to play this clip.
Okay.
Really quick, because I don't know if the listeners know about this yet. I know they know about, Somalia, Uganda, Uganda is where we're going now. I know they know about Somalia, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, possibly Iran. And now, Mr. Nobel Peace Prize, right? Because, hey, Obama deserves that Peace Prize.
Yeah.
President Obama is sending 100 combat-equipped troops to Central Africa to advise local forces on getting rid of one of the continent's most vicious operatives, Joseph Kony, the head of the Lord's Resistance Army, a group responsible for atrocities across the region. It's the first open deployment of U.S. ground combat power to Africa since the Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia in the 1990s that killed 18 troops. U.S. troops may wind up now in Uganda, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Now, I'm going to pause it for a second. If you guys don't know, and you can't see it in the video, but if you don't know, all of those are clustered right next to each other, and they're literally right in the middle of Africa.
Right.
That literally cuts off North and South Africa.
Interesting also, isn't it, that it's right in the same vicinity of Egypt and Libya and Tunisia.
Yeah, and if you look, not only in that area, but if you compare that with all the other bases in the Middle East and everything else, it forms a pattern. There's specific geographic locations that they need to have bases in order to control an entire area. Look, if they control all three of those areas, if they're bombing the crap out of things, if they can get military troops, air quoting, advisors. First of all, let's get something straight. That's what happened with Vietnam. The troops that they were using that were advisors, they were combat troops. They were getting in firefights, they were dying. That's not an advisory role, that's a combat role. See, all you have to do, Steve, is change the name. Like, we don't fight wars anymore, we fight kinetic actions.
Yeah. Yeah. What is this, the fifth war now that Obama is engaged in? Something like that? You got Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq. Of course, we're involved with the border war with Pakistan. And now 100 advisors, as he calls them, are sent to the Congo. Where the hell were these people for the last 7 or 8 years where 2 million Sudanese were butchered by the Khartoum government, Popeye? Now we send 100 people in there to wipe out the Lord's resistance and accuse them of all these atrocities? I mean, this is absolutely absurd with all these other wars going on. I question this story as well.
I do as well, and I'll play the rest of the clip. But when you hear the clip, you hear her say things like, "Well, this is the first time we've had boots on the ground in Africa since the whole Black Hawk Down incident," which that's a blatant lie, because they admitted that there's American boots on the ground already in Libya helping out. So Libya is in Africa. You're going to hear her. I think her name is Jeannie. She's the CNN. DHS, correspondent, blah, 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 blah. So she spews that line of crap. And you hear her talk. You'll hear her lie. She'll say that's the first time boots have been on the ground since Mogadishu, which is a blatant lie.
It's part of a growing military effort to engage in Africa.
And so our presence on the African continent is part of our network of building partners, of gaining intelligence.
Still, General Martin Dempsey, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, warns current budget cuts could risk it all at a time when the threat to Americans is rising.
Oh no, Steve. You can't cut off funding to the military-industrial complex. Damn it, the Roman Empire needs to grow. We need to Americanize everything.
Yeah, it sure does.
You can't cut off funding. Screw the old people. Screw the veterans. Screw the people of the country. Screw the highways. Screw the country itself. It doesn't matter. Give the money to Boeing. Give the money to Raytheon. They need the money, Steve.
Yeah, they sure do. And the bottom line is that these wars and this aggressive imperialistic occupation that we're carrying on all around the world is busting the butts of all the United States citizens, and you got people starting to wake up and realize this. It's all illegal, it's all bogus, and it's all going to come to nothing eventually, I believe, before it ever succeeds in creating their new world order. There's going to be a disaster, a calamity of some kind financially, and it's breaking out all over the world. People are upset and tired of the government, and they're going to try to steer all this animosity into a position to where everybody has to accept some international world socialism. It's absolutely absurd. All this that's going on, it's funny to me, as you say, Popeye, that if the FBI is listening, I wonder if they realize that they're taking orders from the Jesuits and the Pope, because that's who's running things here. Look at Petraeus. Okay, here's another Protestant right through Edmund Walsh's School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University with Clapper, our spies are, with Panetta, with John Kerry, trained at Jesuit schools, also at Yale, George W. Bush, Skull and Bones, the same people, frat brothers. All these people are working for the same dark cartel. Where the hell is law enforcement in this country? I mean, it's a joke at this point right now. And now we're sending more money to start more problems over in Sudan. And it's absolutely absurd.
Because we have the money for this. I mean, we can afford it, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Everybody's just glad to chip in.
Raise taxes. Hey, we need look. The problem with this country has nothing to do with our spending, Steve. Stop it. Okay, it's got nothing to do with our spending habits. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we spend money. Like some actor's wife. I've said this before. You want to fix the problem? The same thing you would do if you had money and you had a wife who she liked to shop and she went out and say she had a $10,000 credit limit on her credit cards for the month, and she put. She would spend $20,000 on it or whatever. And instead of you letting her come home and tell you, well, I need a higher credit limit, so you call the credit company and get a higher credit limit, i.e. raising the debt ceiling. Yeah. You take the card out of her hand, cut it up into little pieces, throw it back in her face, and tell her to start to return everything that she bought that she doesn't need. And if she doesn't like it, well, then you get rid of her and you get a new one that does like it. And that will do the right thing. And that's how you handle that. Now, if you can do that with a woman, or in the reverse case, if it's a rich woman and she's got a husband or something that's a loser like that, and same thing, and the woman gets rid of the man or the man gets rid of the woman, then why don't we just treat the government like it's an abusive, idiotic spouse that we need to replace with a decent one that knows how to cook and clean and do the laundry and help out. And I'm not. Women don't get all mad at me saying that. I'm not trying to be a sexist pig. I'm just saying, I'm using it as a metaphor. We should get rid of the government. And I don't mean you don't have to do it violently. You fire them. Yeah. Ultimately, they're the ones that are going to use the violence because they don't want to let go of their power. That's the problem. That's why they're trained. That's why they train their little dogs of war and their minions, their jackboots. That hey, you got to be afraid of the citizens because if you're afraid, if you have to be afraid because they could come get you at any time, and that's the kind of stuff they tell cops. Why do you think cops react the way they do to citizens? A citizen stands up and they'll pull his gun out or his taser. You be quiet. You shut your mouth, or I'll tase you. You be quiet because the cop doesn't like what you're saying because you're scaring him. And they get these cops so wired up. These guys have guns, handcuffs. They're trained in usually at least some form of hand-to-hand combat or self-defense somewhat. And these guys are scared of you. They're the ones with the badge, the gun, the ticket book, the uniform, the lights, the siren, the car, the dog. And they're afraid of you because you know your rights. You could be a terrorist if you know your rights. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And now there's that bill that Lieberman was pushing like a year and a half, 2 years ago has been changed. And they want to take away the citizenship of anybody. They changed the name of it, but they want to take away the citizenship of anybody deemed a terrorist. They want to take your friggin' citizenship. Amazing. There goes your constitutional protections. We're going to break. We'll be right back.
People are always asking me, yo, Gemini, what's your angle? Are you a devil or an angel? And I say both, as I continue to blame the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, the real reason New York lost their tower.
I agree. I have to agree with him. Yeah. See, Bush was telling us not to believe Cheney and himself. He was saying, look, don't believe these outrageous conspiracy theories that 19 guys in a cave with a laptop could outwit NORAD and make the Air Force stand down and, you know, make sure that the aircraft defenses at the Pentagon didn't, you know, kick in. I mean, anybody with half a brain knows if you go research it, I forget what it's called. In fact, if you go watch the movie Zero, an investigation into 9/11, they touch on it there. The Pentagon has its own like air defense, or Washington, I should say, has its own. It's like a no-fly zone. Yeah. And there's 3 rings of defense, you know, like I think it's 3 miles, 3 miles, I want to say like 5 to 8, and then something like 15 miles. So there's all these things would have had to systematically fail. And I'm supposed to believe some dude on dialysis in a cave is running all this with pushing his dialysis machine. And then 10 years later, he's still alive because, you know, he's elusive. Nobody can get him, you know. And he's like Carlos the Jackal. Nobody can get him. He's on dialysis, Steve, but nobody can get this guy. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I'm supposed to believe at first he was in some John Woo style firefight, you know, jumping over his dialysis machine sideways, double fisting guns. You know, you could see the bullets like in the Matrix passing by the SEALs and him. You know, they're all dodging. But I mean, that's the way they came out with it. Like, I'm supposed to believe any of this crap. And then we kill Anwar al-Awlaki for the second time. And it's funny, you know who they were hyping up when they killed him the second time? The news was like, well, maybe it'll be Adam Gadon. Yeah, let's not mention who Adam Gadon's grandfather is. Let's not mention that he's in charge of the ADL. Let's not mention that at all. Let's worry about Adam Fake Perlman Gadon. You know, I mean, come on, people. This stuff is so right in your face, it's not even funny. It's getting pretty pathetic. And you want to, you know, speaking of things in your face, this is off topic, but Rex Kramer in the chat room threw this link in. 115-year-old electric car gets same 40 miles per charge. You know, like it gets same 40 miles, per hour, or however you do it, whatever their little thing is, as the Chevy Volt. So what does that tell you? That this technology, how many times have we told people that they have technology that's old as dirt and they present it to be new, and people, just because they haven't seen it, they're like, oh, like a bunch of, barking seals. Or give me my fish, Steve. Give me my fish. I get a new cell phone, a new iPhone. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right?
It's absolutely right. Yeah.
It just goes to show you. It's frustrating because it's like, ugh. And it's a perfect example. I'm glad Rex threw it in there because it's a perfect example of how, they market you this I'm doing air quotes, new technology, and say it's brand new. We save the planet. Blah, 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 blah. And the technology is pretty much the same thing, and it's 115 years old. And it gets how come in 115 years they haven't made that any better? How come that hasn't gotten any better? Gee, I wonder why.
If anything, it's gotten worse. Look at all these SUVs. They're just guzzling gas out there. They're still out there. Remember, we thought they were going to be the end of those when prices of gas went up for a while, and then they dropped, and they came back out on the road again with more and more of them. I mean, I'm not against SUVs. If you like one, I personally find them as a visual obstruction because they're all with tinted windows and they're harder to see through than the old days of even vans and trucks. But, the bottom line is nothing has changed here. Rockefeller and Ford and all these people conspired against us to keep us on this petroleum-based, piston-driven engine a long time.
The water-powered car. Remember the guy that made the water-powered car?
Yeah.
That thing disappeared, and I think he ended up dying mysteriously of a heart attack or whatever it was. When you come out with a real invention, Steve, that threatens the powers that be, because it's not. See, a lot of people think it's about greed. It's not, because it's got more than that. Because if people didn't need, if they couldn't sell oil as a necessity, they couldn't say, well, we have to go protect it in all these foreign countries. Because, the oil part and profiteering off of these invasions, that stuff's really a red herring. It's just a red herring. When people are like, no more blood for oil, it's not about oil. There's way more to it. It's about geopolitics. So when Ron Paul says things like, 9/11 happened because of our policy and what we do in the Middle East, he is slightly correct. Now, I know Senator or Congressman Paul, rather. I know his son, the senator, I'm sure, has been told this by many activists as well, and I'm sure he's talked to people like Jones and all these other people. So I'm sure they wouldn't miss an opportunity to drop a 9/11 truth bomb on him once in a while. But Paul knows about 9/11. When people say, "Oh, he doesn't say it about it while he's running for president," because they would use that to slaughter him. It's better to get him in, at least let him get the nomination, and then if he did win, which I doubt it, but even if he did win, if we get a landslide victory, then they can't switch the votes. That's the only way to truly win with these electronic voting machines, is you have to make it such a landslide that they can't do it. Because the guy that even wrote the program and the code said that they can't do it unless it's within a few points of each other. And if it's a landslide either way, they can't swap it. Can't be done. They can't hide that. They wouldn't be able to hide it, and they'd be able to find it. But if it's within a couple thousand votes, here or there, no problem. They can, or if it's within, or say within a few points, like say it's 58% as opposed to, or no, that's too much. We'll say it's 48% as opposed to 49%, and they just wanted to switch it over. Maybe 1% didn't vote for either of those two. They can switch it over, even if it was like 46 and maybe like 47 or 48, they could swap it. But if it's something like 30-70, they can't do it. So, right. If we could get that kind of turnout, but then again, that goes back to the whole Occupy Wall Street thing. There's so many people out there that don't even know what form of government we have.
They couldn't name you 3 branches, but you can verify that with just the John Kerry election. He was elected president, by the way, in 2004. I don't know what exactly happened in 2000 because Florida was, but the point.
Well, they screwed the old people down here is what they did. They did the same thing. They screwed with the voting machines and blamed it on old people and the hanging chads, which was crap. They just, what did they say? Oh, Florida's full of old people. All those old people, they screwed us. And isn't that a convenient way to blame old people if you're a eugenicist? You have to remember, these guys think on multiple levels. So isn't it a convenient excuse to start blaming old people for screw-ups like that? Maybe we should start, euthanizing them. Because, look, they put George Bush in and they caused the war and blah, 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 blah. And there's a lot of liberals that think like that. The hardcore neoliberals, what I'm talking about, because there are people with liberal mindsets that are not retarded or idiotic in that shape or form, and that they understand what's really going on. So not all of them are bad, but I'll say the neoliberals are just as bad as the neoconservatives. They're completely off their rocker, and they buy into what some of these people actually believe their own BS. And I don't mean the lower end people. I mean Bush and them. They buy into their own hype. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They buy into their own lies. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Well, there's no question about what happened in 2004. I think Kerry clearly did win the election. This is what you're talking about, Popeye. If it's that close, they can shift it either way. So if we're going to win any kind of political victory, it's going to have to be very big, friends. And we're going to have to monitor with exit polls every place we can what's going on with this next election. We might as well get prepared right now. We are in a war. They're not going to give up easily. You know that, Popeye. I know that, too. This is a fight. These people will resort to any kind of mischief and mayhem that they have to look into in order to remain in power. That's just the way they are. They're not going to give up these positions. They've fought too hard for too long to create their new world order, and they're not going to give it up easily. They're not going to go quietly into the night. They're going to fight. They're going to kill. They're going to cause all kinds of problems. They've been shooting our leaders and stealing our money, raping our kids and everything like that all these years. And it's horrible. It's just amazing. They're not going to give up. So we're going to have to we have to arm ourselves with this mindset that we are in a war against these people. And we know who these people are. We know that they're the Jesuit spy agency. We know that they're running all kinds of shenanigans through Freemasonry, the Sabbatean Labor Party Jews. There's a number of different organizations, George Soros, people like that. They always infiltrate and they subvert. They absolutely own and control our news media.
Oh, without a doubt, they control our news media, Steve. Without a doubt, they control the news media.
Yep.
And if you check out, people can go look up during the break, Ignatius Loyola. He was one of the founding people of the Jesuits back in like the 1500s. Okay, and interesting, you can ponder this. Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, Jesuit.
Right.
With a big J. We're going to break. We'll be right back.
The actions speak louder, pretend to be free till you die a slave, a soldier in the desert searching for a ghost in the cave. For the corporation, I run out of patience, sick of seeing troops sent to die for your lives, spending dollars in debt. We holler in protest till we have your arrest. We will not rest, and we know what you did that day. Kill your own citizens to advance your ways. All my real patriots stand up and say 9/11
was an inside job. Welcome back, guys. During the break, Steve and I were talking about a very old book, but it is something that I would tell every researcher to try to get their hands on a physical copy of it, because there were a lot of them out there, so I'm sure there's still a bunch of them floating around. But it's a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. You've heard me talk about it before. Steve, you know Gary Allen's book, right?
Yeah, amazingly enough, it was, of course, I've had some questions about the whole political process, but when I was a young man, I came home one day from college, and I was just kind of fiddling around downstairs in what was my bedroom, but it had been kind of, and this book just happened to drift across there, and I started looking inside it, and the thing that struck me at that time was a couple lines that I read, and I didn't know much about the Council on Foreign Relations, which he thoroughly identifies, and of course, he goes way back into the financial theft of this country. But one of the things that he had said at that time that really struck home, and I've never forgotten, is he said, this is the reason why Americans keep voting in every election and nothing ever changes. This is the reason why. And I knew at that point that there was a very solid, rock-solid revelation of truth about our government at that point, Popeye. I mean, that's exactly, he hit the nail right on the head. We keep voting in every election, and nothing ever changes. You know, one of the biggest lies in this country is, if you don't like the way things are, you can vote and change them. Oh, really? Do you think so? Now, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that is probably the most blatantly childish assumption I've ever heard anybody make, because these elections are controlled. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm not saying don't get involved. I'm saying be very aware of the fact that they select your candidates long before you have a chance to elect them. And right now they're selecting the candidates that they want in, and there's nobody good except for Ron Paul out there. On either side of the ticket, he's the only one, and he really ought to get out of the Republican Party before they assassinate him or do something else, because in my opinion, Popeye, they're going to certainly try to kill him or remove him.
They took Bobby Kennedy out when he won California, so people really need to keep an eye on him. Ron Paul needs to take his security seriously. He does.
Yes.
And his followers need to take, I don't want to say followers, but the people that, believe in the message that he speaks, they need to keep an eye on him and protect him. I mean, look, they took Bobby Kennedy out real easily. So you need to in order to understand, I think people should really research political assassinations in order to understand them and understand how people do it, and how they pull this stuff off. Steve, while we were talking and while I was listening to you, I found this quote from
Good.
Gary Allen's book, and I think it's very interesting. He says he's talking about the conspiracy and how the Rothschilds are involved, and he says now remember, this is written like 50 years ago. Yeah. One major reason for the historical blackout on the role of the international bankers in political history is that the Rothschilds were Jewish. Anti-Semites have played into the hands of the conspiracy, meaning real morons like that want to blame the Jews for everything, and it's always just the Jews, and I like skinheads and idiots like that. Okay, not saying that there are people of Jewish descent involved, but it's not all of them. So what he's saying is they've played into the hands of the conspiracy by trying to portray the entire conspiracy as Jewish. So it's, again, that is a red herring in itself, and then that's brought down a dead end. Actually, that would be more of a straw man argument, because that's something that can get beaten up. But no, he explains how there was, J.P. Morgan, like he explains, look, the traditionally Anglo-Saxon J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller international banking institutions have played a key role in the conspiracy. So, but he says there is no denying, the Rothschilds and blah, 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 blah. So, and he's explaining how, and this is 50 years ago, and he's explaining to the readers how they use anti-Semitism to shut people up. Now, check this out. This is what really, and that, again, this stood out. The Jewish members of the conspiracy have used an organization called the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. Uh-huh. Adam Gadon's granddaddy runs it, remember? Yeah, as an instrument to try to convince everyone that any mention of the Rothschilds or their allies is an attack on all Jews. So he's telling, this is like 50 years ago, Gary Allen was trying to tell people what was going on. And he was saying, look what they're doing. Now, yep. Does anybody still think that this? I'm not like he points out. You can't blame all Jews. I'm of Jewish heritage. I don't think my grandmother or my mother partook in the New World Order. If my mother were still alive, she would have been giving the big old middle finger to the New World Order. She wouldn't have been for it. So I don't think the little old Jewish lady down the street is responsible for it. But I understand that, at a higher level, there may be people that claim to be Jewish. But, a lot of these people, like these high-ranking Rothschilds and stuff, they're actually Satanists. And they do all these screwed-up ceremonies. They sacrifice people, if maybe Ike's correct, maybe some of them are shapeshifters, who knows. But I know that the satanic ceremony thing is true. Okay, there's more than enough evidence to point to it. And it's very twisted and sick. It's very disgusting. So the fact that they even use religion at all, Christianity, Judaism, even Islam, there's Arabs and Arab secret societies that do not, it's like their version of the Freemasons, and they take part in these, satanic rituals as well. That's some of the higher ups, not all of them, maybe some initiates. But so at the end of the day, is it really Islam versus Christianity versus Judaism? Or is it Satanism playing those three off against each other to get everybody arguing and keep everybody, baffled with BS and fighting amongst each other? Because divided, we fall. United, we stand, right? That's the way it goes. And they don't want that. They don't, and I'm not trying to, espouse collectivism. I think that's horrible. I think a team of people, a team of individuals working together is a strong thing. I think groupthink is bad. Okay? Yep. Mm-hmm. Even the founding fathers didn't think that democracy was a good idea.
No.
They talked against it. I'm trying to find it in here, Steve, so I can say the name of the group. I'm going to have to look during the break. But if you get, again, I've said this before, if you guys email me, the listeners, if you email me at info@federaljack.com, I'll send you an ebook version of this that I have. But I suggest you try to find the physical version. I have it in my hand right now as I'm looking through it. I have to thumb through the pages very carefully because they're old. But I'm trying to find where he explains. The reason I brought up Weishaupt, the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, was because he explains that Karl Marx didn't write the Communist Manifesto. It was written for him using Adam Weishaupt's writings, earlier writings. They took Weishaupt's writings and, used them as a basis, changed some stuff up, and that's how the Communist Manifesto came about. So it really isn't about communism. when they use the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, who was a Jesuit priest, and you can use this guy as a basis to form communism. That's really not communism, is it? You know, I forget exactly what Alan called it. It's not Illuminatiism, but it's something like that. But pretty much, I mean, this guy's the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, and they used his writings to come up with the Communist Manifesto. And then you see these idiots today. You should read. I had some girl tell me at one of these rallies, these Occupy rallies, that they had, or I should say planning meetings, because down here they're not really occupying anything. But she said to me, well, you should read Lenin and Marx. And I looked at her and I said, well, you do realize that communism is ultimately a red herring, right? That it's meant to get you to go down a path it's a dead end. It's not really what's going on. You know, I mean, you can call it communism, but it's really the Illuminati. It's the New World Order. You know, I guess if you don't have anything to call it, you could call it communism or Fabian socialism is actually better, because it's this slow creeping. That's what Fabian means. It's the slow creeping socialism that they're trying to bring in. This collectivism where the group is more important than, the individual. They want to get rid of individuality, and they're doing it in schools. Look what they do. Kids can't wear a lot of schools, like down here. If you're a smart parent, you know how to get out of it. A couple of my friends down here, they're intelligent enough that they were able to get their kids out of it. And I was surprised. I didn't even know you could. They're the ones that educated me about it. But the kids down here, they go to school. They all wear the same uniforms. And they say it's better. It's better. Why? So there's no individuality?
Keeps the gang colors out, they tell them. See?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Keeps the gang colors out, right. Because gangs don't dress up in uniforms and pretend to be other people, right? Because the gangs don't infiltrate our military and get training, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and people buy it because it's for the protection of the children, Steve. You know, the kids, Steve, the kids. You must not like children, Steve, if you don't want to protect them. You know, I mean, we have to take away the internet, otherwise kids could get hurt, you know. God forbid. We should ban bugs, too. We should ban insects, because one might fly down a kid's throat and he might choke, you know, when they're running around during the summer. So I guess we have to ban insects. So now we need the Department of Homeland Security insect division, so they can go out and, you know, they can arrest mosquitoes and they can arrest bees and flies and stuff. I mean, I'm being ridiculous because that's where we're going with this. That's just how ridiculous we're going. Why don't we just ban breathing altogether? I'm sure that's on their list, though. That wouldn't surprise me if they were like, we should ban breathing. Well, Leonidas is letting me know it's time for the top of the hour break. Guys, we'll be right back with hour number 2. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is hour number 2 of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Today is October 14th, 2011. In the first hour, my friend Steve Stars and I have been trying to enlighten you guys about the Jesuits. We've been covering some news and everything else. And I had promised in the first hour that hour number 2, would have a roundtable type discussion. And I was going to bring on a friend and I would say awesome patriot, fellow YouTube truther, John, who runs the YouTube channel Iran Contra Scum Did 9/11. And it's all one word. Again, Iran Contra Scum Did 9/11. And it's all one word. I should say 911. There is no little slash in between the 1 and the 9. John, welcome to the show. I value your insight. You're a very smart individual. And when you upload your videos, I've noticed you 9 times out of 10, you give a rather large description of what's going on. What do you think about this whole Iran assassination plot crap that Obama just came out with?
I believe that it's It's really got to do with Eric Holder. The entire thing, I think, has to do with Eric Holder and his drug running little show that he was doing with his gun running drug show with the cartels that he was doing down there in Mexico. I think what happens was there's an agenda here going on with the Obama administration having to do with the border. Last year and for months, you couldn't turn on the news and not hear chatter about the border, illegal aliens. And at the same time, they were running the same chatter or a media program about guns. And, Michael Bloomberg was sending down the New York PD to go to the gun shows in Arizona. We had Adam Gadon coming on and telling Americans to go buy guns. They can't stop talking about the lone wolf that's going to happen next. So there's definitely an agenda that's focused on the Second Amendment and an attack on the guns here in America. And so I believe that the way that they do these things is they run low intensity, conflicts that require them to come in and have a solution. And part of that, I think, is the drug thing that's going on there. I believe that Eric Holder is, waist deep in drug cartels, guns, and the border, and all the crap that's going on there, running both sides of it.
I agree. And I think, Steve, what do you think about this? Do you think that they released this, this whole assassination plot, like you said earlier, they arrested him back in September? I think it's to cover, look over here, don't look over here, because ISO was, sending out subpoenas to Eric Holder the next day. So I think it's just a little bit convenient that this whole plot comes out. What say you, Steve?
Well, I agree. Ray McGovern was talking about that, and he says that the Washington Post columnist David Ignatius, in his accustomed role as unofficial surrogate...
Nice last name.
Yeah, Ignatius, right. Unofficial surrogate CIA spokesman, has thrown light on how the CIA, under its new director, David Petraeus, again trained at Georgetown under the School of Foreign Service, Wall School of Service there. David Petraeus helped craft the screenplay for this week's spy feature, the Iranian-American used car salesman Mexican drug cartel plot to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. Okay, so what he's saying, before Ignatius's article, McGovern had seen no one allude to the fact that much time about this Crime Stopper tale had come from the CIA. So he says that what's happening here is this is CIA. Controlling information for America is what they do, friends. So he's stepping in now to create just like weapons of mass destruction. Remember that whole debacle with another Georgetown student, George Tenet. All of these people are the same folks, friends. They always are. Petraeus, Panetta, all the way up and down the line, you have this controlling information aspect of what the CIA does. So now Petraeus is stepping up to try and reinforce this whole story. So there are, of course, international ramifications, as we can talk about, Popeye, but the truth is this was something that was cooked up very quickly. It was thrown into the pot and freeze-dried.
You got to wonder if this guy's name, and the reason I made fun of it, because you got to wonder if this is made up, like a pen name, like some people use. And I say that because his last name is Ignatius, and the founder of the Jesuits, his name was Ignatius Loyola. I mean, come on. Is it coincidence? Really? I don't believe in them. Yeah. My wife asked me the other night if I believe in coincidence at all, and I said not really, because everything happens because of something else. Usually, whether if you sit and think about it, everything usually does happen for a reason. There is something that caused it. So whether that be if someone says to me, well, Papa, you talk about ghosts, does that mean or aliens, does that mean that you blah blah? Yeah, well, you have to have an open mind and take into account different explanations for things. But again, there is a reason for things. So no, I don't think coincidence just happens. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. If that pisses people off, too bad. But I don't believe in coincidence. I just don't. I think everything happens for a reason, whether you know that reason or not. And usually we don't. That's why they say coincidence. People just use that term. They throw it around real loosely. I don't believe in it. And like any good history professor will tell you, there's two paths. There's two tracks of thought on history. There's the coincidence theory and then the conspiracy theory version of it. Coincidence theory is everything happens that is seemingly related, but it really isn't related. And then obviously the conspiracy theory is that everything happens and it is related. We got about 5 minutes before we go to break here, so I got enough time to get a quick answer from both of you. John, I'll start with you. Do you think that this is going to spark World War III, or do you think that, between the alternative media and apparently there is some pushback in the Pentagon that they don't even want to do this? Obviously there are some white hats still in the government. Do you think we're going to be able to prevent World War III like we did when Cheney wanted to do this a couple of years ago, or what?
I don't think they want to go in the level that you're talking about where it's a World War III. The idea is to completely re-engineer and rebuild the Middle East in such a fashion that it's like a coup. Okay, we're going to rebuild the Middle East. We're going to do every country. Iran's on the list. Everybody's got one. It's already all happened. They're even doing Uganda now. I mean, they're going to rebuild Africa too. They really want to rebuild all these third world countries and kind of put them under the thumb. Okay, so if you have a World War III, it'll ruin their entire scenario. All this work that they've done to really rebuild this thing so that it's going to work for them. Okay, NATO, these countries that are doing this, they have a specific plan and they're working every angle. And I think if they really broke it into chaos, it would really destroy a lot of stuff that they've already been doing and they've been setting up and trying to get going here. I believe that, and it might even not to be they want to set anything up. They just might want to keep it, destabilized, but create it where it's destabilized in their fashion, not destabilized in Saddam's fashion or whoever else decides it. It's not up to Gaddafi how you're going to be destabilized. It's up to us.
Yeah, like controlled destabilization.
And so Iran is just another number on there. And the reason is, and if you look, all of these countries are resource rich. The resources are nationalized. The people benefit from the products that come from each one of the countries that do these nationalized type things. But the people that really, the NATO countries don't get a lot out of it. And so they really would like to kind of have it all open up to where it's open for everybody. This is no secret. This is just how it all works. I mean, everybody knows this. They preach it on Fox. And in order to do this, you kind of have to, and there's a bunch of security issues that go on. When you go and take people's resources, they get a little pissed off. And so you got to kind of, destabilize them and deal with the whole thing where you're kind of controlling it all. And I think that's what it is. I don't think they want a World War III. I don't even think they want a World War III with, Iran and this type of thing. This thing with the gun thing, I'm not so sure that the Iran-Saudi twist and spin on it isn't just that. It's a twist and spin off the shelf.
Well, yeah, see, I think they're trying to tie Iran and the Mexican drug cartels together, It makes, sweeping smaller problems all together in one big group, like the axis of evil type crap. It's same, kind of almost looks like the same type of play. We'll get into that more when we come back. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Family murdered and tortured, raped and pillaged.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, to comment on something Jack Freeman said in the chat room, I agree that whole wiggle fingers thing and all that other stuff, I don't remember what they call it, but that's I don't remember what the Occupy people are calling it, but I know what that is. That's social engineering. That's getting people to, not clap and be quiet. And I understand respecting others, but again, that's part of collectivism. That the group is more important than the individual's right to express himself. It's wrong. I've been plenty of rallies where people clap and stuff. The person speaking just stops for a second, lets them clap, and they go on. It happens at speeches all the time. Have you ever seen you go look at Bobby Kennedy's speeches where people would clap and they'd be, yay and everything else. Go look at the speeches, the political speeches back then. Even look at them now. Do you see people putting their fingers up and waving? All zombie-like? That's creepy type behavior. You start to engage in groupthink. And you don't even realize it. And I'm not making fun of people that do it because a lot of people are just, they don't understand what's going on. Okay? But, again, I hate that chant, this is what democracy looks like. I can't stand that, no. We're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. And there are good people at these Occupy events that are waking people up and letting them know, hey, we're not a democracy. Unfortunately, there are certain Occupy events where they keep pushing, we're a democracy. No, we're not a democracy. There might be a democratic process to our republic, but we actually founded, we were a republic. But John actually brought up a good point during the break. We're more of an empire now than anything. And we're acting like an empire. I mean, we're not acting like some constitutional republic. We're not even acting like a democracy. We're acting like a massive empire like the Romans. And like I said in the first hour, it amazes me. They're willing to, sacrifice everything, the roads, the infrastructure, the people, the civilians, grandma, grandpa, the veterans, everything. Okay? But you can't cut money you can't cut funding to Israel, and you can't cut funding to the military-industrial complex. And you have to fund all these puppet regimes that we still fund. We can't cut any funding to them. Unless they piss us off, then we cut their funding and we go in and bomb them. And then we just install a new puppet, and they get our funding again. Libya got a massive bailout. How do they explain that one? Libya got a huge chunk of TARP. How do you explain that? How do you explain the logic behind that? You know what I mean?
The Lockerbie bomber.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how they did it. Listen, here's the deal. This one is critical here. Okay, the Federal Reserve cut off $40 billion to Libya, and at the same time, Barack Obama, for the first time in 39 years, an American president, meets directly with Muammar Gaddafi in L'Aquila, Italy, in July. And then the following in August, we have Joe Lieberman, John McCain, Susan Collins, Lindsey Graham, all your favorites. They're in Libya, and it turns out that we find out now that the Federal Reserve had loaned $40 billion, and those guys were over there selling Gaddafi weapons with the $40 billion that he just got in Obama's stimulus bailout theft scam. Okay? And then part of that whole thing was the Lockerbie bomber was released. Barack Obama, John McCain, these guys went to Libya and negotiated the Lockerbie bomber's release themselves, personally. 2 days before the bomber was released, you can go online, check it out. John McCain twitters, interesting conversation with an interesting man at Gaddafi's ranch, selling him weapons with the $40 billion that Obama kicked off from your stimulus. That money out of your pocket, we just blew it up with Gaddafi's weapons that we sold him, that NATO bombed. And
right.
Another good one I want to talk about is you guys were talking about Georgetown, and I missed this part of the show. I was off at dinner with my family and stuff, but when Barack Obama did this whole the Bin Laden show on a Sunday night at midnight, there was all these people out front at the White House with flags, na 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 na, hey. Turns out they're all Georgetown college students that were bussed in for the CNN show at midnight on Sunday night so Barack Obama could announce he had killed bin Laden. It was actually just a show, okay? I mean, it was a Broadway show.
Yeah, we commented on that. Bob Tuskin and I did a video, and there was actually a bunch of us on the call, a couple other people too. If you guys are listening, I'm forgetting you. Don't get offended. But it was a while ago. But there was a bunch of us on. We did a video that night. And we were exposing how it was just full of crap. Dude, I said, how are these people lighting off fireworks in front of the White House? Where's the Secret Service? And when was the last time you saw a protest out in front of the White House where the Secret Service wasn't arresting people and tasing people? And these people are lighting off bottle rockets and Roman candles in front of the White House. Oh, don't worry about it. Well, if they're not worried, it's like I said, when you go to a protest and you don't see any uniformed police standing around, okay? There means there's undercovers in plain clothes inside. You know why? Because the cops always worry about things like that. They never trust. Okay, they don't. I don't care if they tell you they do, they don't. So if you don't see them overtly worrying by putting uniformed police, that means that there's already caught. They're not worried about putting, uniform guys because they know that there's people inside already in plain clothes keeping an eye on things. So it doesn't matter. You have to think like these people do. It's very important. Steve, why don't you tell John what we were talking about with Georgetown? Give them a little, a little heads up on what we were discussing about the Jesuits and everything.
Well, of course, we know the entire spy structure is now run by Georgetown graduates through the Edmund Walsh School of Foreign Service there. We've got James Clapper, or Spy Czar. He was an old altar boy. This kid's been around a kid, if you want to call him that. Then you got Petraeus, of course. He's a Protestant, but he went to the same school. Bill Clinton was there. We know that Barack Obama was trained, when he was growing up, his maternal grandfather was working for the CIA in Lebanon. He was his mother was trained at a Jesuit school. So, you see the connections between, what you might call the skull and bones Freemason types with John Kerry and George Bush, and the same people also operating in and out of the Jesuit spy ring, which is running the world. Virtually all the world's spy networks are run by the Jesuits, though they're one name or another. But they clearly have a throat stranglehold on the United States. The CIA should be called Catholics in Action, because that's really what it is. And this is the 21st Inquisition. This is why you have Gitmo and places like that. And I didn't know that these kids were from Georgetown. I did know that they were watching a hockey game and that they had really beefed up everybody. And the whole thing after the so-called killing of Osama bin Laden was a big, another one of these psyop kind of big crowd feature displays that was created by the White House and as a propaganda campaign. But yeah, that's interesting that they're from Georgetown, John. That's really interesting. And, kind of getting back onto the subject that he brought up right before the break or just recently was, I agree with him. These upheavals are happening all over the world, and they're going to try to steer these kinds of autumns in America or Arab Springs or anything that they can, especially in Iran, where we overthrew Mossadegh back in the 50s, and then, of course, the whole Shah of Iran and Khomeini and the whole thing like that. I mean, these are all about destabilizing these governments, and I don't think that we really do have the military firepower to engage in a war right now. That's what I'm hearing from some of the top military experts. We're too spread out in Afghanistan. We've got too many people all over the place. But what we can do is rattle sabers, keep the heat up, and try to pressure the Iranians we've said for so long we're about to overthrow the government of Ahmadinejad's government there.
Yeah, and let's get something straight. When people say, "Oh, well, the problem is we've been enemies with them since 1979." No, we overthrew their country back in the 50s. Okay, they just got tired of our crap after 25 years and threw us out. We didn't have any right to be there. It was a coup that took Mossadegh out. It's crap. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to break. Another half hour with John and Steve Stars.
He was only using me to be friends with the enemy. Game over. I ain't even drank nothing, but I got a hangover. First I was drunk from the lies they were feeding me. Then I sobered up and realized they were mistreating me. I stumbled out my bed and tried my best to gain some sense of it. The reasons for the cover-up, the reasons for the censorship. Now I realized that Uncle Sam was not befriending me. He was only...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. During the break, John dropped a bombshell on us because Steve had, before we went to break, Steve was telling him, giving him a quick update about what we were talking about the first hour, everything. And John hit me with a bombshell. John, what were you telling me about 9/11 and all the Catholic hospitals and stuff? Tell the listeners, because I just think it's pretty amazing. It's just it goes to show you, more interesting. At least it poses an interesting question as to So go ahead, tell the listeners.
So on 9/11, they, as soon as it happened afterwards, they took everybody away to the hospitals and they began doing victim counts, and they had the media come to the hospitals. And there at the hospitals, they would present and bring out, kind of escort out who was going to talk next to the media that was standing there. So it was like one of these presented media things where they bring out the next actor for you to talk to and everything. And they'd bring out a victim and he'd have some little bandage on his head. And he'd be, "Oh, I'm so hurt." The entire thing was all done at the Catholic hospitals at, St. Vincent's and St. Patrick's and whatever little hospitals they have there. The Catholic Church basically took over the American medical system and took over all the hospitals. So the government actually pays the Catholic Church to do our current American medical system that you have right now. That wonderful thing that is so expensive that does nothing. They're supposed to be healers. Anyways, the Catholic Church ran the victim numbers and ran the victims and the media show there at where they collected all the people. and did all the prayers for 9/11. That evening, Pataki and Giuliani met with Cardinal Egan. Cardinal Egan was there all day long at the hospitals, even dressed in his blue smock hospital outfit, running around, acting as if he's, helping some victims. The buildings were blown up, so you're not going to really find a lot of victims. You might find some arms or legs or something if there was, for the people who were tied up and put inside the buildings. They had to get rid of. Okay, they got rid of the top 20 New York Port Authority cops. It turns out there was probably a lot of really good cops that would have snitched on this whole thing. There's a bunch of people I know that may have been like me or you that wouldn't go along with the show. Okay, they had to get smoked. So you got a bunch of victims. Anyways, the Catholic hospital, runs the victim numbers, and all the victims go to the Catholic hospitals. All the ambulances that run around and have those, the Catholic hospitals had subcontracted out. Catholic hospitals for like 2 or 3 weeks before and for months beforehand had been running all these terror drills. So they were fully prepared. They'd been doing bioweapon drills, drills for just events, just like 9/11. Okay. And so when 9/11 happened, if you go and look at the media and stuff, you'll see that the hospital's out there and they're ready and they got their drills. They're fully prepared, but the victims never show up. Okay. So you got the hospital where there's, 700 doctors out front, but there's, one car drives up and a guy runs in. And at the end of the day, they're like, oh, we have 3 people dead. So they ran the victims' numbers, and they really controlled that entire thing, as well as the media coming there. And then as the media went on later, they would escort out certain actors that you could tell were actors because they're running just kind of an almost obviously dumb script, or they're talking about how they were just down at the rubble, but the guy doesn't have any dust on him. It just goes on where there's these little things that you catch if you're paying attention. And, one of the victims, one of the main victims? Oh, the one that's the Frasier producer. The Frasier producer, his brother is a Catholic bishop in Boston. Okay, and then the Mark Burnett that was killed, and that evening they had a Catholic service for him in San Mateo. It's like everywhere you look on the news, as I've watched these shows over and over, the ones that you put up. You put up that big 6-hour one. I went through that thing and tore it all apart, taking apart the little clips in it. It is just fraught throughout with Catholic everything. And I'm like, well, at first I didn't catch it. I'm thinking, well, it must be because it's New York and Boston and everything's Catholic and these guys are just Catholic nuts. But the Catholic, there's something going on with the Jesuits, just like you're talking about, completely involved in 9/11 and having to do with everything. Okay, Flight 93, the victims you have, that came on and did the crying at night. Oh, my husband. Dude, they're all Catholic actors. I think they were, planted into the show.
I have to agree, especially the whole phone calls and stuff. The thing that really gets me is when the guy calls his mother and he says, this is Mark Bingham. You believe me, right? Like, because that's always what you say when you're about to die and you're calling your family for the last time. Okay,
this is not a hoax.
Yeah, exactly. Because you right off the bat, you're trying to convince your family that everything's normal. It's not a hoax. What say you, Steve?
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's so many hitches in the whole 9/11 thing, and we go back, to Spelly's war in Vietnam, Cardinal Spellman, and now Egan. Cardinal Egan is running the show apparently, and you see him whining and dining with both Obama and John McCain. I mean, there's definitely a control of the system. I mean, you have to look at the Supreme Court's got 6 Catholics on it now. I mean, there was only one in 1830, and he did more to start the Civil War than just about anybody else, and that was Roger Taney. I mean, today the court is completely dominated. Our whole government has been overrun by this cartel. And what's interesting, Popeye, and I've heard the speech by John F. Kennedy so many times, but he says that one line, I'm paraphrasing maybe, he says, today we're confronted by a global conspiracy. And he says this matter-of-factly, without any question, in that speech. Remember the one that you played just, I think it was last night on Bob's show. I mean, people don't understand that this is history. This is 500 years of the last 500 years of Western civilization is about this.
And Kennedy was a Catholic. You'd think he,
exactly.
I think he would know if he was talking about the Jesuits.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you guys, with the 9/11 thing, all the people on top, the Kerry, the Bush, the McCain, Dude, we're talking all the hardcore Catholics that are deeply Obama. I mean, who put Obama in power? If you go and look at Chicago, South Chicago, early on, all of his connections in the neighborhood thing, Obama was puppeteered and planted put in there by the Catholic Church into that spot that he got initially in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, they created his power.
The very, very big cartel there in Chicago running that scene and have for a long period of time. So, yeah, they're all across the country, and they're quickly assimilating into positions of very high authority almost everywhere. And so, 80% of the Catholic people out there don't even know what's going on. So they become the victims in many cases. I mean, here's a story, a Kansas City Catholic bishop, now Bishop Robert Finn, the first U.S. bishop criminally charged with sheltering an abusive clergyman. Okay, this is starting to come out an indictment. The Jesuits had to settle a $166 million lawsuit back in Oregon. And I mean, they're abusing even their own kids, of course, but at the top it gets very, very hush hush. They're a secret society. They definitely are. And they're in cahoots with the other secret societies. This is not, anything that is what you might call a kooky conspiracy theory. This is
he says it right in the speech, Steve, in the beginning, right in the beginning of the speech. Okay, one of the first couple of lines. He says, we are surrounded by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy, which operates primarily by covert means. And I'm not paraphrasing. I'm quoting him when I say that. Okay. And what does he say? He says secret societies. So to agree with some of the people in the chat room that are talking about it, I do not believe he was talking about communism. You always get these faux skeptics that try to, he was talking about communism, man. Kennedy did not mean the New World Order. He said secret societies, okay? Right. Secret proceedings and secret oaths. Communists didn't have secret societies with, little secret oaths and everything else. I mean, I'm sure I'm sure the oath was if you open your mouth, Stalin will get you. I mean, they didn't have to worry about oaths. They were all afraid of Stalin because he was insane. He used to write out assassination lists every morning. I mean, the guy was nuts, and he was starting to lose it towards the end. So that's really.
You guys, you couldn't really you couldn't go on this crusade where you go ahead and you're going to rebuild the Middle East and you're going to go ahead and do all this thing and you're going to slaughter 1 million Muslims. You couldn't do this without getting a signature from the Pope.
Oh, of course
I'm sorry.
not.
Listen, I'm sorry. You are not going to go ahead and destroy a whole nation that might be filled with Catholic churches and then think you're going to get reelected on the northeastern seaboard. Again, if you do that, you had to get the Pope's approval. The Pope, 9/11 didn't happen without the Pope going, yep, you can go ahead and do it. We're talking massive global, the crusade. Okay, this is Crusade 2001.
Skull and Bones and all that. If you look at all these, first of all, if you look at the world leaders, people like you said, John Kerry and all them, not only do they have Catholic connections, but most of them, a lot of these people are Knights of Malta. Who do the Knights of
Egan.
Exactly. Who do the Knights of Malta answer to? The Pope. We're going to break, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. This is the final segment of the Friday, October 14th edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Any local listeners in Miami, people listening tonight, make sure you guys check out Mobilize Miami on Facebook. He's working with the local Occupy groups, like Occupy FIU, Occupy. There's a Occupy Miami Beach. And We Are Change Miami, and I'm part of the collective group with them. I shouldn't say collective. I hate that word. I let it slip out of my mouth. See, I even got to catch myself. We're not a collective group. We're individuals coming together as a team to help get the message out and spread truth and about the Fed and everything else. So go check out Mobilize Miami on Facebook, and tomorrow, from what I understand, there's lots of people coming down to Occupy at Government Center in Miami. One of the guys from Mobilized Miami went down. Actually, two of them went down to the county building today and spoke to everybody. And they talked to them, and they went over the rules. They even had the cops called on them, and they stood up to the cops and told the cops their rights. And by the way, just for the people again on my Wednesday show, a lot of you were mad at me, but you weren't paying attention. And one of the guys I had on, Alex, said that the city it will enforce on city and property. And when he talked to the cops, they said that they had 3 buses waiting to take people away tomorrow. And the buses are parked, if I remember correctly, under 595. So, which is 595 comes over and it comes onto, it dumps down. It's a causeway there that connects South Beach to the mainland. And it's on the section on the mainland, right where Biscayne is, over by the stadium there. Supposedly that's where they have their 3 prison buses parked waiting. Somebody spotted them. So just be prepared, guys. City property, the Torch of Friendship, where the organizers have people meeting, is city property. And they didn't listen. Obviously they probably didn't listen to what we were saying, but they went and did the research. And Alex came on Wednesday and he talked about it. So county property, you have less of a chance of getting screwed with. They went over it. He already spoke to. He dealt with the cops today. They told him that he could use it. So. Go down there and check it out. He's going to be screening movies. I'm going to give them a bunch of DVDs to give away. So go down and support them. And, the occupation, hopefully, of Miami has begun or will begin tomorrow. Before we run out of time, and we have about 9 minutes left here. But my guests are always awesome, and we always end up getting in massive conversations. Before we forget, I want to make sure that you guys can tell the listeners where they can, check out your work, because both of you are accomplished researchers, and I appreciate all the time and effort that both of you put in. So, John, tell the listeners where they can check out your YouTube and anything else you have.
I post all my videos. I started off as a reporter, and then I've just moved into the 9/11 genre mainly, and I cover a lot of the other, false flag tears or scams that go on. You can find me at Iran Contra Scum Did 9/11. That's all one word without the hyphen between Iran Contra. Check it out, subscribe, and comment.
Awesome. Steve?
Oh, very cool. It's really been good to meet John and be on the show with him, Popeye, because this guy, I really like you, John. You're on top of this, and, I think you fit right into what Popeye and I've been doing so many others, and so I hope to hear you some more. I'll be visiting your website at Iran Contra Scum Did 9/11, no hyphens in that. Is that right, John?
Yeah, it's his YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube
that's
and
my
type
YouTube
in.
channel. It's at YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay,
just type
cool.
in Iran Contra Scum Did 9/11, all one word.
Cool.
I mean, you can't watch it. You can't type 9/11 on Google or really any of these other things. Type in Mumbai, Fast and Furious. You'll find my videos on there.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah,
Excellent.
you can throw a rock at false flag terror videos, and his,
It's on there.
one of them is going to be his.
Well,
He's been up there for a while, so a big thanks to John for what you do. Steve, you have websites and
Right,
stuff.
I have a website you might check out too, John. It's called AIDSFraudVideo.com. We present a documentary that presents HIV as a complete fraudulent cause of AIDS. AIDS is very real. We're not AIDS deniers as we're accused of, but HIV is a fraud. Guess who came up with this? And I didn't know any of this, Popeye, when I first started. Robert Gallo and Anthony Fauci are both members of the Sword of Loyola. Okay, they commandeered the deer-eyed Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's also a Roman Catholic, a Rockefeller Republican, who was Margaret Heckler, into creating this fraud. Donna Shalala, I just was looking at her website here, a Maronite Catholic as well. HIV/AIDS is a creation of the Jesuit American Medical Association manipulated system. And you need to know what's going on with that. So if you go to AIDSfraudvideo.com, AIDSfraudvideo.com, you can see our video for free there. If you want a couple, if you want some DVDs, I'm also sending out 9/11 Mysteries, a film that's hard to get these days, and other things courtesy of Popeye. And I'll mail those out to you, you know, with for what, $14.95 shipping included. But you can watch it for free. And if you can't pay for it, just watch it for free. And this is another part of that whole thing. So I do appreciate it, Popeye. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
problem.
Steve.
I appreciate the two of you, you know, and all the research you guys do, and I appreciate you guys coming on my show. You know, John and Steve came on, you know, last minute. You know, I gave them a shout yesterday and asked them if they wanted to come on because I wanted to get a roundtable with the two of you and get your opinions, and I wanted to introduce the two of you because, like, talking to you individually both, I was like, wow, these two need to talk. So I'm glad I could get you guys on the show together. You know, I mean, it obviously you could, the three of us, without having this conversation off air, have all literally, you know, the stuff that John was talking about. So the listeners know, we didn't have this conversation off air and then come on air and have it. We would talk during the break, and he would say something, and I'd be like, "Stop! You got to say this on air." Right. I mean, it was literally spontaneous. So there is a connection. It's not us sitting in a smoky basement somewhere all coming up with some crazy theories. It's just the three of us are well researched, and you can see there's obviously something going on. You know, it's not made up by any means.
I had no idea we would even discuss this subject about Catholics or you were on the Jesuits, anything like that. I thought we were going to talk Eric Holder and everything. It just so happens that you happen to be on that subject, and basically I could talk about false flag care all day long, and there's a connection to what you guys are talking about. Just many of them pointing right at that.
Yeah, like glaring, like a big red arrow going, ee.
Oh, man.
You know, and like we were talking, a lot of people will say, well, what about Israel's involvement or this or that? Well, Israel is controlled through Freemasonry by the Pope. And I mean, look at what the Pope. Let's look at the Pope for a second, since we have a few minutes before the end of the show. Let's look at the Pope for a second. You know that big pointy hat he wears on his head, people? That's a fish head. That's Dagon.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: why does the Pope wear a yarmulke?
Yeah, there you go.
He's not Jewish. I thought he was Catholic. Well, maybe there's something more deeper. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's a meaning. There's something deeper that connects them to. The satanic Luciferianism that's hidden under the guise of Freemasonry. And when I say that, I'm sure by now most people understand that the Porch Masons, you know, the blue degrees are not. They're not Illuminati. Okay, there's 33 degrees, and then above that there are what they call the Illuminati degrees. So. Not everybody knows what's going on. You know, my uncle's been a Mason for, I think, over 40 years, 50 years now. He has no clue about any of this. And if I tried explaining this to him, he would probably look at me like I had 6 heads. You know, I've had slight conversations with him dipping into it, but he wouldn't understand it, you know. And Albert Pike wrote about this kind of stuff. He talked about how they would have the blue degrees, you know, the blue rings that they would shield themselves behind. And only this, you know, inner cabal would know what's really going on. And they would use it because it was a very, you know, it was a very well-organized secret society. And they've, you know, just like the government, the United States of America, not the U.S. government. The U.S. government is a complete different thing. That's a corporation that was founded in the late 1800s. And I suggest the listeners go look that up. I'm not kidding. The country is called the United States of America, but everything is called the United States military, the United States Treasury Department, the United States, the President of the United States. It should be the President of the United States of America.
Yeah, right.
The United States is a corporation. What's up?
You got to remember to also tell people to visit your website and help you and support you too. Because
I'm always promoting everybody else. I'm one of these people that doesn't shamelessly self-promote.
I got to remind you.
I should probably do that more. But I don't like to think that it's about me. You know, that's why I like to have different, diverse researchers on, like you guys. You know, look, John works his butt off on YouTube. He has for years. And I use him as a resource to get videos from. So I wouldn't have him on if I didn't think that he was an intelligent individual and had something smart to say. Same with you. You know, I wouldn't have you on, Steve, if I thought you were a bumbling moron. That's why I have you on all the time, actually. You're probably one of my most frequent, if not the most frequent guest I have on my show. And you and I have done some really awesome shows together. But as always, we are out of time. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Everybody, thanks for listening. You can catch me again on Sunday at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. And go to federaljack.com. That's my website. My archives are there. Check out my YouTube channel. The answer to 1984 is all one word. I'm out.